So we start off taking a wrong step on the way to Franca's Cafe and end up crash landing on some tiny island below. After being woken up from a vicious fever dream, we are greeted by the Rock's daughter and attempt to return to town only to be ambushed by a glowy red thing with a sword. However, it gets ambushed by a memorable character number 1 before we have a chance to deck it in the Snoz. Snoz decking complete, more glowy red things with swords show up, and the Rock, in all his cinematic glory, makes an appearance, making short work of them and making the player feel like an innocent bystander. Making our way to town, we encounter a quick intro story on our quest to become a merry stew. We learn that the rock that we crashed on was Halfa, that the glowy red things are called dolls, and the rock is the leader of his own rock town. But the story does very little to make us immediately care about any of this. The story immediately detracts from dolls, the one thing you are probably curious about, to go meet several NPCs you will never see again. Also, huge quick training montage number 1. After returning to the Rock House, the Rock decides to throw a festival in our honor. Only moments later have a small conversation with the Rock that ends just as a giant Dorito chip decides to crash the party. The Rock takes action as you just watch yourself stand there like a stunned mullet while everything around you explodes. It's like that one scene from Transformers the movie. The Rock and memorable goal number 1 urge you and the Rock's daughter to retreat to Central Alio. Again, with you, watching your character behave like a stunned mullet while everything explodes. An unknown time period passes as you regain consciousness on the mountain, overlooking the now pieced out rock town. Manon, being useful, immediately attends to you as you begin to stir, informing you the Rock is nowhere to be found. He was at the epicenter of the flying space Doritos laser attack after all. Perhaps we'll get another time travel plot where we save the Rock from an early demise and again watch ourselves behaving like a stunned mullet. However, it is the Rock we are talking about. He can survive anything. Otherwise, we traverse the worst cave in the game to make it Alio City, where the first thing we are greeted by in the zone is a huge floating sword art reference in the sky. That also happens to be the same color scheme as the flying Dorito chip and pod you arrived in. Upon reaching Alio, we are summoned to the huge tower in the center, and are introduced to Crawford, possibly the true antagonist of episode 3. Otherwise, you meet up with Aina in the tower after discovering she has survived her grave injuries. Honestly, at this point though, it could have gone either way, and the audience would have had the same reaction. The 3 of us get conscripted to fight Dark Falls. Seems like they are throwing the title around very lightly when a giant space Dorito is considered a Dark Falls. Crawford then teases us with player housing, as we disappointedly can't re-enter the rooms that were allegedly prepared for us. The next morning, you are sent to a training montage where you meet the second cast that is possible to see, Dozer. At which point, it is training montage 2 time. After which, Dozer tells us we did as well as the Rock's daughter, which feels like the first time we have performed better than an innocent bystander this entire time. Crawford calls us back to Alio Tower, then immediately asks us to bother the poor operator girl who probably has her hands full dealing with the ARC's operatives jumping over walls. Then, we go to find the mysterious Ryuka device, a fast travel tower that we aren't told anything about, followed by being sent to training montage number 3 at another cocoon that we also know nothing about. This has been part 1 of my Story So Far episode. I have been RSV. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.